Okay.
Labrador Retrievers are one of the most popular dogs in the world. First off, I want to talk to you a little bit about the history of Labrador Retrievers and where they came from. Labs came from an island in Canada called Newfoundland, which is also called Labrador. They came from a breed of water dogs, it's called the St. John's water dogs, that would go in the oceans and help the fishermen get fish, and they were primarily known as working dogs that helped them do things around that land. These dogs were bred with other dogs like the Irish dogs and Portuguese and English dogs around that area. That's why there's also called a Portuguese water dog that was used here in this area to catch fish and do working there as well. There's smaller types of the water dogs there, and once they bred, there was a lot of different types of labs started coming about. There's a couple pictures that you should see, and the first one that's in the middle is one of the first St. John's water dogs. And you can see the second picture, that's actually one of the bred labs that came about from the breeding of these water dogs. Now, several people didn't know that water dogs even existed in this area. So once they saw these other different dogs they've never seen before, they didn't know what they did or how they lived. So they presumed that they were water dogs as well. So these labs started going in the water. They were built, they had the fur, they had everything they needed to be able to be water dogs as well. Now, these dogs were later taken to England, and they still didn't have a name for them. They still called them St. John's water dogs because they looked still like them. But once they got over to England, they realized that they weren't the same. So they decided they had to make a new name for them, and it was called the Labradors after the land that they came from, which was called Labrador. Now, from these different types of labs, over time in the 19th century, more colors started to come about once labs started breeding with each other, and once they became more popular. This is how we now get brown labs, black labs, and yellow labs. These are just some puppies, and then there are some larger labs there at the bottom. Labs are extremely popular nowadays. There's labs, and they're the #1 dog in America, Australia, and England, Great Britain. So they're extremely popular. The colors that are the most popular are yellow, which is 40% of the population, black labs, which take up 37%, and brown labs, which take up 20%. Now, most people don't know a lot about labs and their characteristics, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the characteristics of labs. Labs are very athletic. They love the water, they love to swim, and they love to eat. That's one thing you really have to be careful about, because if you feed them too much, they can get obese extremely quickly. They're a dog that likes to eat a lot at one time, so you need to make sure when you start them as a puppy that you're feeding them small portions, not overfeeding them, and things like that. Since they're also very athletic dogs, you need to make sure that they're getting plenty of exercise each day. So if you have a dog in the backyard that you might not play with all the time, you need to make sure that you at least let your lab get 30 to an hour of exercise each day to keep them healthy, for them not to gain more weight. So that's the best thing for them. They're also extremely easy to train, and they're very obedient. They love to have an owner that trains them very young, and then they'll keep these traits as they grow older. So if you want to teach them tricks or things not to do, just specific things, it's best to start them out when they're younger so they can remember these things as they grow older. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Also, one other characteristic about labs is there's two different types of labs. Since they were taken to England originally, there are two different types of labs: the English, which is from England, and the American lab, which started here in the U.S. You might not really be able to tell the difference between these two pictures, but they're actually pretty different. From the lab, the American lab, which you should see at your top left, is a lot more broader, it's a lot taller, it looks a lot skinnier, but it's just because it has longer legs, it has a longer nose, like a lot of different features than the original English lab, which has smaller legs, which has a more pushed in nose and mouth, and which might look a little fatter, but actually they're just different types of labs that most people know of. You can still find a lot of American labs and English labs here in the United States, as well as in England you can find those different types as well. And since labs are the #1 dog in most of the world, they're really easy to find. If you want to adopt a lab, it's best that you can find one at the shelter, and that's where I would recommend getting one, is from a humane society or from a shelter, because that's where people really need to be getting these dogs from. So I would recommend doing that, and as well, you need to make sure that you're getting your lab spayed and neutered to prevent more overpopulation of these dogs that don't get cared for. Because there's a lot of dogs nowadays that don't even get cared for, that you see on the streets, that die because of malnutrition and hunger, and because no one cares for them. In Portugal, there's a lot of dogs. In America, there's a lot of dogs. You just see lots of dogs and cats and just animals that are not being taken care of, that need homes. Now, you'll also see labs that will breed with other dogs. Like, you might see other names of labs. I don't have any pictures up here, but you might have heard of like a Labradoodle, which are bred with other types of dogs, which aren't the same because they have different characteristics of those poodles or whatever dogs they're bred with. But I want to talk to you now about why I think you should get a lab, and why I think labs are the perfect family dog for everybody to have. Now, I think labs are great because they're great dogs and they're great family dogs. They are extremely obedient. They're not known to be aggressive or violent or anything towards children. They're not known to bite. They're not known to grow old and bite people. They have great reputations as dogs. And if you treat them right, they'll treat you right. I don't think they're too big or too small to maybe hit something, furniture, knock anything over, or be too small to maybe get stepped on by a child or anything like that. They also don't shed, because I know a lot of dogs, smaller dogs in particular, shed a lot in the house, and some people are allergic to dogs as well, and this can cause them to get allergic reactions and things like that. And these labs don't really shed as much, so that's why I think labs are also great. Now, one of the highlights of labs that I really like is that they are great assistant dogs. If you don't already know, they're one of the top assistant dogs in the world, which means that they help a lot of the blind in assisting them in ways that we really can't. The blind people, they have these dogs that help them cross the street, just a lot of different things that we don't have the challenge of every day. Labs are known to be very, very caring for these people, and they grow extremely close to these humans, as well as these people grow close to these labs. Now, labs, as puppies, you want to train them. If they're going to be assistant dogs, this is when you'll start training them, is when they're younger. They have to go through specific training, and that's how they start being an assistant dog. Now, many people think labs are a hyperactive breed, which they think are very energetic and they have a lot of energy and they're very high maintenance. But in actuality, they're not if you treat them the right way and you give them the right obedience. If you let them run wild and never treat them and don't have obedience towards them, then they will run wild, and it can lead to chewing on things in the house and might be aggressive. One of the last things that I want to touch on is I personally had one yellow lab when I was younger. I had a yellow lab named Daisy from when I was a baby till this past summer. and she was 17 years old when she passed away, which is 5 years over the life expectancy, because most labs live to be 10 or 12 years old. Now I have another black lab, which I got 5 years ago, and her name's Lizzie, but she is a lab mixed with a golden retriever, and they are both extremely caring. They've never bit anybody. They're just well-trained dogs. They lived a happy life. They were great swimmers. I personally know how labs are, and I would tell anybody that they are one of the best dogs in the world, and I would tell anybody that they should get one. Maybe when you're just as a kid, or when you just get married, or they're just the perfect family dog, and that's why I think anybody should get a lab as a dog.